really caused the recent horrific N12 Alberton truck accident? Do truck owners regularly service and maintain their fleet? What will it take to stop the carnage on South African roads? And what is the role of the RTMC and AA? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Mpatsedu. South Africa's Department of Transport strives to lead the provision of integrated, sustainable, reliable, and safe transport system. However, the incidence of accidents on our roads paints a rather bleak picture. Road crashes are the second leading cause of unnatural deaths in this country. The recent car pileup on the N12 near Alberton resulting from a crash allegedly caused by a truck's brake system failure claimed 4 lives and left several injured and a number of vehicles badly damaged. But how safe is it to share the road with heavy-duty vehicles? My guests in studio today are Refilwe Mongale. She is the executive manager at the Road Traffic Management Corporation, RTMC, and Marius Late. He's the head of public affairs at Automobile Association, AA. Now, let's firstly, Refilwe, look at, or rather use the recent crash as a case study, right? It has somehow brought back the debate or discussion around the safety of trucks and the damage that they've been causing on our roads. Let's just talk about that. Where do you fit in there? Are you able to say to us as South Africans, you know what, we're going to ensure that these trucks are not there during peak hour or any other time, we'll get them their own roads or what?
But you have got to look at this thing as not in isolation, but within a systems thinking framework, where you are taking quite a number of factors that are at play at the same time into consideration. It's about the road environment. It's about the driver fitness. It's about the vehicle fitness as well. And it's also about the laws and regulations that we have in place. So all these things are working together at the same time. With regard to heavy vehicle drivers, there are certainly prescriptions that apply from the regulations that determine what should happen in terms of being a vehicle operator. What we have seen with the N12 crash, for instance, is the issue that the vehicle was not fit to be on the road. And that is the space that we play in as an agency that oversees law enforcement in the country. So those are the things that could happen, is that you could have your law enforcement in place to make sure that these vehicles are taken off the road before the crash occurs. Now, it is easier said than done, because obviously as a corporation and as all our provinces, we will not be in all vehicles at all times. Therefore, it means that you expect a level of responsibilities from the operators that are involved as well.
Who is responsible to ascertain the roadworthiness of these trucks?
The roadworthiness of the trucks would be the responsibility of the operator. They are bound to that. They themselves have self-regulated themselves in a number of forms. They've got associations where they pledge and they say that they will ensure that their vehicles are roadworthy. The National Road Traffic Act as well also says that the operators will be responsible for ensuring the vehicle roadworthiness, as well as being responsible for putting a driver in a vehicle. So from that perspective, they cannot escape liability.
Okay. Marius,
yes.
You talk AA, people think of these little vans that are boosting people's car and, you know, your truck lifting some broken down vehicle. How do you fit in here?
I think road safety is very important to the AA. We're responsible for more than 1 million cars in the end of the day on the South African roads. I also think that to support Refilwe here is that this accident that happened is a systems problem. But one thing that I would like to highlight is that behavior of people and drivers is very important. What we've realized, and we work closely with the RTMC and other agencies, is that up to 90%, between 80 and 90% of accidents. The reason for that is behavioral,
the human
behavioral issues, and then obviously the vehicle fitness and the driver fitness.
Yes.
If we can consolidate it in those three big categories.
Now, even in that case, yes, we know what the problem is. 90% means we are aware that the human factor is playing the bigger role in this accident. But the poor truck driver has no job, you know. He takes whatever truck they give him, whether roadworthy or not. They just, you know, give him documents and say, this is your package for that lorry.
You're 100% correct. That's why there's two parties involved here. It's the driver of the vehicle and it's the owner of the vehicle. There's a big responsibility on the owner of that vehicle also. And if you refer to our current legislation, that vehicle must be roadworthy to be on the road as a starting point. And then also the driver of the vehicle, he has a specific checklist to make sure your flicker lights, you know, all the visible things is working in the end of the day before he moves that truck out of the logistic framework, wherever he's taking his load. So there's two parties involved that needs to work together. Okay. But I will put a third one there, and that is every one of us, law enforcement, in an integrated manner.
On the issue of the vehicle driver, like you correctly said, we are in a country that is plagued by unemployment. Yes. And people indeed are desperate for jobs. Now you have a situation where you have some very good operators who actually go beyond to invest in road safety. Okay. Now within these operators, you also have some who take this thing for granted and actually squeeze profits at the expense of people's lives, like we have seen in some of these recent cases of late. So that is an issue that continues to disturb us. To that extent, Mpo, we are doing quite a number of things. And one of the things is to understand how would that car have been on the road and have been issued with a permit to be on the road and a roadworthy certificate.
I have the answer. Do you want it?
Give me the answer for
corruption.
Corruption. That's the point that I want to get into. And as the RTMC, we are very involved with finding these syndicates. And you know, when there's an act of corruption, there are two parties. Yeah. So there is collusion between the operators and their testing centers, which are privately owned, whereby they are issued with roadworthy certificates without actually even taking a car into the facility to get tested. So those are some of the issues that we're working on. And as the RTMC, we're actually even strengthening what we have. We are saying that we are undertaking this kind of investigations. We are working with other law enforcement agencies. We have arrested quite a number of people who are responsible for these kind of acts, but we are actually even strengthening. We are bringing in more investigators to make sure that we can be able to deploy such services to all the provinces in South Africa and ensure that we can get as many of them as possible.
Let's also look at the other means of transport, which is your public transport system as well. But we'll only do that after the break. This is question time. Please don't go away.
Healthy food is not always the cheapest food option. And so making the healthy choices, the easier choices, remain a health challenge for South African children.
Bipolar disorder is said to affect 1 in 100 people.
Low back pain, the most common spinal disorder, affects about 8 out of 10 people at some point in their lives.
Back pain persists for more than a week or two. Seek advice.
I'm Dr. Sello Madawu. Watch Health Talk every Saturday on SABC.
Zoom into Africa. This is Eritrea. The president is Mr. Isaias Afewerki. Eritrea got independent from Ethiopia on 24th May in 1993. The population is over 5 million people. One of the major languages spoken is Arabic. Monetary unit is the Nakfa.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. Our guest in studio, Refilo Mngale. She's the executive manager at RTMC, that is the Road Traffic Management Corporation. And Marius Slate is the head of Public Affairs Automobile Association. Let's talk about buses and taxis. They've had their fair share, actually, in as far as road carnages are concerned.
I think if you look at the total picture in the end of the day, we know that 40 people is dying on a daily basis on South African roads. We know it costs the country, and there's figures up to 300 billion rand.
Yeah.
If we talk about buses and we talk about taxis, for example,
yes.
We know there's about 400 buses moving from north to south, and we know the danger spots. And if you speak to the RTMC, they will tell you that there's a lot of buses and a lot of traffic that's moving from point A to point B.
Yeah.
That is, the reason for that is part of the whole geographical positioning of people away from work, for example.
Yeah.
People is moving to Gauteng.
Yeah.
If you go back to the taxi industry, for example, I think from the taxi side, they are also trying, in partnership with us, to root out this whole road safety problem and carnage on our roads. But if I can come back to the corruption issue, because for us as the AA, that's also very important. The Fulwe is absolutely correct, because if you buy a license, it's maybe cheaper as getting it the legal way, because that getting it a legal way is an input cost to that owner of that vehicle in the end of the day. So buying a license for 4,000 rand is a cheaper option in the end of the day. So that's also a big worry for us. Now, what do you do? I think the next question is, what do you do about it? We've got roadblocks all over the show, but the RTMC can't be everywhere. They can stop a lot of cars, and by visibly looking at cars, they can see if it's overloaded. They can see certain things. They can see the flicker lights and A, B, and C. But I think what is important is that before, and if you look at international statistics, before you get a heavy vehicle on the road or a car, it's very important that vehicle is roadworthy to be on that road. That driver, what we call driver fitness, that driver can drive that vehicle in the end of the day.
Okay.
In other words, that's where that responsibility is coming in.
The problem I have with you, Refilo, and by you I mean RTMC, is that there's a lot of focus now. There's a huge outcry because of this accident. After a week, we would have forgotten. N12 would have been cleaned. You won't see even the skid marks. And we'll not necessarily wait for another big accident, but we'll hear of challenges on our roads when another accident happens, which I think it's not so on.
That is a serious issue. You would have forgotten. We would not have forgotten in the RTMC.
Okay.
We would not forgotten with Marius in AA and all our entities and the National Department of Transport and all our provinces.
Okay.
We have said at all material times that road safety is something that happens every day. Every day, somebody is going to get into a car expecting to have a safe journey to their destination. And people die daily. We might not be seeing how many people die on a daily basis because it's not all times that you will get a big truck that is involved and it is a messy scene. What you are seeing is that light motor vehicles, in fact, contribute, the highest number of crashes comes from there. And as a whole, most of the fatalities are seen from that, you know. But we have said at all material times that it is a daily thing. Hence, we refer to a 365-day road safety program. We are reporting to our shareholders, to our stakeholders on the work that we are doing. We are in the schools, Mpho. We are negotiating and having meetings with driving school fraternity. We are talking to all our stakeholders. We are constantly strategizing, evaluating our plans, seeing where we're going wrong. And hence we are able to come up with diagnosis of what are the issues that we really need to address. So we're not forgetting about it.
Okay. Is legislation enough?
No. Legislation cannot be enough. And we keep saying this at all times, that if you are going to have a safe road network in South Africa, everything works in tandem. You need to have a road infrastructure that is conducive to getting you there. Good roads. You need to have a good car. We can detect that through vehicle roadworthiness and law enforcement. You need to have a driver that is sound. But the responsibility, Mpho, is up to each and every single one of us. Every single one of us has got a role to play. Legislation kicks in after everything else has failed as a corrective measure. But prior to a crash occurring, a lot of things should have taken effect.
There are countries where those who break the rules of the road are classified as abnormal. And this has helped those countries to actually get people on the road, you know, to obey the rules of the road. Because they knew that, Marius, once you're arrested for having either driven on the wrong side of the road or speeding or whatever, once they declare you mentally unfit, they detain you and take you into a Vescopis type of a facility where you have to be assessed mentally. So are you normal to break the rules of the road? Don't you think if we were to do that, people will obey the rules of the road because they didn't want to go and be assessed for a month in a mental institution?
Look, if you can take it from the angle, and I think we've mentioned the National Road Traffic Act at this stage. But there's another piece of legislation called the R2 regulations that's going to follow. The R2 regulation will have a demerit point system. And that demerit point system will say, if you are drinking and driving, we will take away your license. You will never be on the road again. That also means that you will go to hospital, they will check your blood content, and they will do the necessary observation. If it comes to the mentally side, obviously you need professional advice. So us from the AA, from the RTMC, all the other law enforcement agencies must be very careful to say someone is not mentally fine or okay. For that you need legislation in the end of the day. But what I can say is that we are working very hard to get the R2 regulations in place to take away what they call the demerit points if you don't obey the laws of the road.
Okay, I want us to talk a bit more about the punishment that is supposed or that is meted out to those who break the rules of the road only after the break. This is question time. Please don't go away.
we really know the hype is about the new and how about the new cabinet will actually perform. But what role should then the media be playing at this critical stage?
I would hope that media will give the newly appointed people a benefit of the doubt.
Has the media lost its respect in this regard? We want you to tell us.
The many factors that are hidden from the public in terms of this ought to be brought out by the media.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
Who are we, you ask?
This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house.
As we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. My guests in studio are Refilwe Mongale, the Executive Manager at RTMC, and Marius Slate is from the AA. He's the Head of Public Affairs there. Now, Marius, the punishment that is currently meted out, is it serving as a deterrent?
I think it will. I've mentioned the R2 Act, for example. I think that will be a deterrent for people to obey the law, knowing that they can lose their license and they can lose their job in the end of the day. Because if you're a driver, for instance, and you lose your 12 merit points and you can't drive a vehicle anymore. So in that sense, I think it will help us a lot. I also think that currently the visibility of policing is helping a lot. People is seeing visible policing, so they know someone is watching. Let us stay inside the ambit of the law.
But they shouldn't do it for those policemen who are hiding behind bushes and under the bridges.
Yes, but that's why I'm saying it's a behavioural issue. It's not. It's a behavioural that needs to change. Then something that I didn't mention. If you look at people that's fatalities on the roads, we mustn't forget the pedestrians. They are the highest number.
The jaywalkers.
The jaywalkers and the normal people that's walking next to the road. The Refilwe was mentioning infrastructure, for example. If you look at South Africa and you look at the infrastructure, the road infrastructure, there's no place for people to walk next to the road. But they must get onto a taxi. They must get off a taxi, for instance. And I'm using a taxi as an example. It can be a bus, it can be a train or whatever. So we mustn't forget pedestrians are also very important. They need to be visible. They need to be seen. And the driver of that vehicle need to see that pedestrian walking there. If he's driving with a car that's not fit or with no lights, he can't see that person. So that's why the system approach that we refer to is very important. And it starts at a very young age, because it's a behavioral thing that we need to start on a school level to learn the people the rules of the road.
Somehow it seems to have been accepted, Refilwe, that taxi drivers are bad drivers, and what can you do? Umageza.
I think we actually need to question that, to question if really taxi drivers are the worst drivers on our roads. We have seen what happens with some of the upmarket vehicles and what the guys who drive those cars do on our roads in terms of speed and being reckless. But there is that thing that exists, that taxi drivers are perhaps the ones that are causing all the ills that we have, and that is incorrect. We are all using the road together, and we need to understand that it is a shared space, and all of us have got to be responsible in that regard. But what we are doing with the taxi industry is that they have been very proactive about developing programs that empower taxi drivers. They are very proactive about regulating themselves. They have marshals at taxi ranks who would not allow a car that is visibly unroadworthy to take passengers and ferry them. So taxi industry themselves do that. We're talking about the National Taxi Alliance and Santaco. They work very closely with the RTMC as our partners. But Marius mentioned a very important issue about education and the whole 365-day program. And that is why, not just in this October Transport Month, throughout the year, we have campaigns at taxi ranks where we actually engage with the commuters to say that, guys, be aware of what could happen to you, especially with long-distance driving.
But commuters are the same ones who will shout at you when you try to report either an unroadworthy vehicle. I mean, I was almost bitten when I said the taxi that has just gone past me was really not in a good condition. They are the same ones who then come back and say, no, you can't do that. We are on our way home.
It is true, Mpo. And our responsibility is to educate. And that's why Marius is making the point about educating the nation from an early age and continuing with that education. But how we pitch messages is also very important. We've got to pitch our messages differently now. People have got to be, it has to start from them. There has to be a consciousness that develops within a person to want to change their behavior. They must understand what would happen if they do not change their behavior and what the losses to the economy and to the country and to their families. Each and every single one of us knows people that have perished from crashes. And the reality is that let's start calling these things correctly. It is not an accident. It is a crash. An accident is as though it could not have been avoided. And that's the kind of mind shift that we need to start getting into, to say that all these crashes on our roads are avoidable. And in the instance where a crash actually does occur, it does not have to lead to a loss of life. And that's why in the road safety science, we talk about forgiving roads. So that's the kind of education and messaging that we've got to be consistent about, targeting different things at different times. Pedestrian visibility is one. Marius has just made the issue about the figures with regard to pedestrians that are dying on our roads. We have to educate road users about how to be visible, especially during the night. We know when it happens. Winter is the time also when, because the sun sets earlier, then pedestrians die on our roads. So we have to teach them about that. We have to talk about issues of seatbelt usage. It can save your life. It might not look cool, especially to young people. And a lot of young people are actually dying. So the future of our country is being put at risk here, because if you are losing your most productive people, then you don't have future to build your future capital. You know, so those are the things that it is actually cool to wear your safety belt. It can save your life. So there's a whole lot of initiatives. There's a whole lot of specialized campaigns that we do to educate South Africans.
We would have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Maria Slate and Refilio Mungal, thank you very much for your time. Our email address, questiontime@sabc.co.za. Our Twitter handle, @questiontime24. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.